welcome back to my channel, and for today's episode, I'm going to share with you all the most common question on DS-260 form where nurses has confusion. So mga Memsh, medyo serious mode tayo this time kasi magbabasa tayo ng mga questions tungkol sa DS-260. But before I proceed, please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification bell para mas ma-notify kayo sa mga susunod pa nating videos. So I will share with you the tips that was shared to us by our attorney in filling up the DS-260. So, all applicants, including spouses and children immigrating to the United States, must complete this form through the U.S. Department of State website. So, your attorney or your case manager will provide your NVC case number and invoice ID number to log in sa website nila. Okay, so once submitted, the DS-260 cannot be corrected. An applicant also cannot simply complete a new DS-260 if one has already been submitted. Errors on the form can cause problems, thus an applicant needs to be sure it is error-free prior to submission. Okay, so many of these questions are simply biographic questions. The answers to these questions on DS-260 are very important. So if you are unsure about your questions and still you have confusions, you should ask your attorney or your case manager for specific questions on your case. Okay, question. Have you lived anywhere other than this address since the age of 16? So the word live does not mean your permanent address. In this case, live means anywhere the applicant has physically resided other than visit since age 16. So for example, if the applicant attended college in a different country, then that is where the applicant live even if he or she maintained a residence abroad to return or after completing the degree. So same applies to work assignments. So if you work or the applicant resided in a different area, so let's say Middle East, you have to declare that address. If yes to the previous question, from date up to what date, the exact dates on these questions are important because the dates will determine whether the applicant is required to obtain a police clearance from these places. So each applicant aged 16 or older must obtain a clearance from the local police authority in their country of residence. However, the applicant may also need additional police clearances if the applicant live in a different part of the country of nationality for at least 6 months after age 16. So, kung nakatira ka sa Pilipinas and tumira ka sa probinsya from age 16, you have to declare it. And or the applicant live in a different country for at least 1 year after the age 16. So you have to get the police clearance from that country naman. So guys, don't be confused about these two questions. So kung tinanong lang is have you lived anywhere other than this address, kahit pa less than yan ng 6 months, you have to declare it kung talagang meron kang ibang address. Now, yung 6 months and 1 year na date or period, ito naman ay requirements para kumuha ka ng police clearance. So, ito yung basis kung kukuha ka ba ng police clearance for those dates. Next, do you have an address in the United States where you intend to live? So, for employment-based case, tayo yon EB3, the NVC does not expect you to have made living arrangements prior to the interview. However, an applicant cannot move on the next page of the form without first indicating the address. So here, it is acceptable to put your employer's office address. Okay? So, hindi pa natin kailangan ilagay yung apartment address natin, kundi yung office address ni employer. Next question is this address where you want your permanent resident card or green card mailed? So, for us employment-based case, if you indicated the employer's address as the permanent address, then the applicant should indicate yes, that the green card should be mailed to that address. So, if you have any other address or relative's address na nilagay doon, you have to click no, and then sa baba, you have to indicate your employer's address where the green card should be mailed. So, why sa employer or sa attorney? So, case-to-case basis, if your case manager said na sa attorney nyo i-address or sa employer, it depends dun sa agency. But, for sure, hindi yan pwede sa relative's address or yung permanent address mo. Why? Kasi, when mailing your green card, merong mga specific process kung ano yung kailangan gawin pagka na-receive na yung green card. So, ang best person na kailangan humawak nito once na na-receive nyo yung green card or na-receive nila yung green card is yung attorney nyo or yung employer. Is your spouse immigrating to the U.S. with you? So do not confuse the word immigrating with traveling. So the question asks whether the spouse is immigrating or seeking permanent resident to the U.S. based upon your application. This question does not ask whether the spouse is traveling with you. So again, sabi ko dun sa first video ko, kung meron kang dependents, kahit follow to join siya, or kasabay mo a company, immigrating to the US with you pa rin, yes pa rin ang sagot dito. Kasi, this is a question for the visa application, not with the traveling. Next is your spouse immigrating to the US at a later date to join you. So, for this one, again, sinabi nga na don't be confused with the two words. Hindi porket follow to join or accompany yung mga dependents mo, magbabago na rin yung sagot mo dito sa question na to. So, the question is kung mag-i-immigrate ba ang spouse mo on a later date. So, the answer is no. Kasi nga, sabay-sabay kayo nag-a-apply for the visa. Next question is, do you have any previous spouses? So the question is self-explanatory, but it will determine if additional documentation is needed. So if the applicant or the applicant's spouse has previously been married, the applicant will need to obtain evidence of the termination of each prior marriage. So termination of marriage may be a final divorce decree, annulment papers, or death certificate. So, do you have any children? This includes all children, stepchildren, adopted children, and natural children. So, even if the child is over 21 years old and may be considered to have aged out. So, for permanent residence purposes, if a child is adopted, the applicant will need to provide proof, including certified copy of the adoption, legal custody decree if custody occurred before the adoption, or a statement showing dates and places where the child resided with the adoptive parents, and proof that the adoption occurred before the child was 16 years. So next is the child immigrating to the US with you. So same with spouse. Kung dependents mo na siya, ang answer mo dapat dyan ay yes. Kasi nag-apply kayo together for your visa. Next question is, have any of your US visas even been canceled or revoked? So the consulate or embassy will cancel a visa to issue a different kind of visa, and the cancellation is without prejudice, meaning it does not have any impact. However, the applicant still must answer yes. Next question is, have you ever been refused a US visa, been refused admission to the US, or withdrawn your application for admission at the point of entry? So, whatever your answer is, kailangan nyo lang maging honest. So, discussion includes any visa or entry. So, if the applicant was ever denied a visitor visa to the US, then the applicant must mark yes, although the refusal of the visa doesn't negatively impact the case, unless a visa or entry was based upon misrepresentation or fraud. So, if the applicant was ever refused entry to the US, the applicant must still say yes. In which occupation do you intend to work in the US? So for employment base, this should be the same occupation for which the I-140 was approved. So it refers to the profession that you intend to work in after entering the US. So note, registered nurse is not one of the occupation listed on the drop-down menu. So you can use the medical or health or other than type the registered nurse. address and phone number of petitioner. So for employment base, the petitioner is the employer who filed the I-140. So although the applicant may work at a client site that is different from the company's location, the applicant should indicate the address of the petitioner rather than the work site. So magkaiba yung facility itself mismo, saka iba din yung talagang address ng employer mo. So meron tayong main address for the employer, pwedeng iba pa yung worksite address mo. So ang pipiliin mo ay yung for petitioner. Do you seek to enter the U.S. for the purpose of performing skilled or unskilled labor but have not yet been certified by the Secretary of Labor? So for EB3 or employment base, the answer to this question is no. A U.S. employer sponsoring a professional employee has previously gone through the labor certification process, and the work has been certified by the U.S. Department of Labor. Next, do you have documentation to establish that you have received vaccination in accordance with U.S. law? So the answer to this question is maybe yes or maybe no. So if you have previously received all required vaccinations and your primary care doctor has provided you proof to later present to the examining physician for your medical exam. So you can answer no if wala tayong mapepresent na record for the vaccinations. So last question is about the SSN. So if you don't already have an SSN, the answer to this question is yes, kasi we're still applying. Once the applicant has entered the US and passed through the customs, the Department of Homeland Security communicates this information to the Social Security Administration. So the Social Security Administration thereafter automatically processes the Social Security card and send it to the applicant's permanent address. So an SSN is a crucial document for several things in the US. So it is an applicant's best interest to have the card automatically processed. So if the applicant indicates no for this question, he or she will be required stand in line at the Social Security Administration to receive the card once he or she arrives to the US. So that's all lang, guys. Ingat-ingat sa pagsagot and make sure that you are prepared. Do not sign and submit unless na go signal na kayo ng attorney nyo or ng case manager nyo na pwede nyo na siyang isubmit. So make sure na all informations are correct and meron kayong enough proof para ma-prove ito once na i-interviewin na kayo sa consulate. So guys, till next time, and for the next video, good luck sa pag fill up ng DS-260. Bye!